Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. Today I have for you a technique that seems to be all the rage right now. I've seen a lot of consultants making this card and I always wanted to try it. So I decided to take a look and see how complicated it was to make, and it turns out it's not complicated at all. Some people call this the book fold card. Some people call it the book binding card because it has something that kind of resembles the spine on a book. Some people also call this the side fold card, so pick whatever name you like and run with it. So you can either craft along with me tonight, or you can grab a notepad and a pen and take some notes and measurements and then craft later. So let's go ahead and get started. This first card is using what I refer to as a landscape orientation, with the short edge and the fold on the side. And to start, we are going to need a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11. So half a sheet cut long ways of cardstock for your card base. This is Coastal Cabana, so you will need a scoring tool. And this is so complicated, it is one more score line than a regular card. So in other words, not complicated at all. So on your 11-inch side, what you're going to do is you're going to score it one time at 4 inches and then slide it over to 5 1/2 and score it again. That's all the cutting and scoring we need to do for this card. Now turn it over, go ahead and fold on that center score line, and then fold back on that other score line that you made at 4 inches. And that gives us our spine and our book fold. Next, you're going to need 2 pieces of designer series paper. The first one is the larger panel on the card, and it is 3 3/4 inches wide by 4 inches tall. And then you're also going to need a strip for the spine, which is 1 1/4 inches wide by 4 inches tall. And you can quick take a screenshot of that or jot that down really quick. And then all you need to do is glue these to the front of the card using your preferred adhesive. Now make sure you have the 4-inch side of the paper going up and down. And I like to glue the larger panel on first. It's really up to you, there's no rhyme or reason, but what I like to do is glue the large panel on first. You leave a little bit of a border around the edges. And then once I have that large panel situated, I can come back with the smaller panel and use that larger panel to use as a reference point. My glue. Oop, oh, just ran out. That's okay, we'll switch. I always keep a spare handy. So what I can do is, rather than try to line it up holding the card this way, you could either flip it to the top or the bottom, whichever way you like, or if you're better at lining up sideways than I am. But this way I can take this large panel and look at the corner and then match my small panel up at about the same point. And there we go. So next, I'm gonna grab some ribbon. You can do this 2 ways. You can grab about 20 to 24 inches of ribbon if you like, and just wrap it around and tie a bow. You know, cut your edges, then tie your bow. If you want to do that, it's basically the same steps, but I'm going to show you a hack to save a little bit of ribbon. So what I'm going to do, instead of tying the whole thing around, because I am not the world's best at tying bows, I'm going to cut a strip of ribbon. This is a sheer pool party ribbon that coordinates very well with this Coastal Cabana cardstock. And I'm just going to trim it a little bit longer than the width of my card. And then I'm going to open the card up, and I want to be attaching the ribbon to the outside of this thin panel, so in between my score lines. So here's my hack. I like to take a little bit of Scotch tape. You can also run some adhesive or glue here if you like to tack it down, but I like kind of keeping it simple and having a little more real estate to work with the tape. And I'm just going to fold my ribbon edges over, take a piece of tape and just tack it down. And then I can kind of double check, make sure my ribbon looks good here. And then I'm going to grab some tear and tape. You want a strong adhesive for this step because if you use a regular adhesive, when you open the card, the whole thing's going to peel open and you're not going to have that bookbinding effect. So I recommend either liquid glue or tear and tape. Probably even our Stampin' Seal Plus would work, but you have to make sure you have the plus, not the regular. Now, here's another little hack. If you've seen my videos before, you've seen me do this. This is my favorite hack that I learned probably a few months ago now. If you want a nice clean edge on your project with your tear and tape, grab a clear block or something with a square edge and just pull back on the end of your tape. And that way, rather than a rough edge that you're trying to desperately find the edge of your tape, and sometimes it doesn't come off the way you want, you've got nice clean edges, which are usually easy to finagle the tape and the backing off. But what I like to do is take your pick tool. First, I'm going to give this a really good press, because otherwise sometimes my whole piece of tape likes to come off. And I'm just going to slide this under the edge and take off the backing to my tape. And now I'm going to fold this shut. Just make sure your tops and bottoms are even there. And just like that, I've got my book fold. So we're going to dress this up a little bit. First of all, I'm going to make sure that my ribbon is going to stay put. This one actually seems nice and tight, but sometimes I don't get the snuggest fit with my ribbon, and it wants to move a little more than I want it to move. So here's another little tip. Grab a glue dot. And I recently learned this tip, and I love it because I'm forever getting glue dots stuck to my fingernails, and then I wonder where they went or something. So I'm going to take your pick tool, grab my glue dot, and I'm going to put a bow over top of this so I don't have to worry that the glue dot is going to show through the sheer ribbon. And I'm just going to sneak this little glue dot underneath here to hold my ribbon down. Now I'm going to take my ribbon again, tie a bow. So rather than fighting a whole long strip of ribbon and trying to tie it on the front of my card, which as you can tell, I am not the world's best bow maker. Once you finagle your bow the way you like it, there we go, I think that's good. I'm going to trim my edges, so cut it off the spool here. And trim the other end. I'm going to grab another glue dot. I like taking my bow and putting it right on the glue dot here. Give it a press and then lift the whole thing up. And just like that, I'm going to hide where that glue dot was showing through just a little bit. And there we go. One more thing for the front of the card. I want to put a little sentiment on it. So I am going to take my double oval punch. This is one of my favorites for small sentiments on the front of cards. So first I'm going to take a piece of basic black and punch a scalloped oval. And then I have some Coastal Cabana to match my card. I'm going to grab Memento black ink. It's my go-to black. It's a nice dark black. You can use it with alcohol markers like our Stampin' Blends and it won't bleed. And I'm just going to stamp my happy birthday sentiment. This is from the Oval Occasion set that coordinates with that oval punch. And now I'm going to use the bottom oval here to punch out my sentiment. So all I need to do is layer that together with my adhesive. And then add a couple dimensionals to the back. Peel the backing off of those. And then you can put your sentiment anywhere you like on the card. Sometimes I like to take a look at my designer series paper and see if I like it better one place or another. I think I'm going to stick with down here at the bottom. And now all I need to do is finish my inside and my envelope. So the stamp set that I want to use for my accent is a photopolymer stamp set. So I need to grab my Stampin' Pierce mat and a piece of scrap paper, because I'm going to stamp off my envelope. I just want to put a little bit of the stamp in the corner. So I need something to protect my surface here. So there's a little accent to my envelope. Should have gotten that a little more on the envelope, but that's okay. And then for the inside of the card, I need a piece of basic white that is 3 3/4 inches by 4. So this is the same size as the larger panel of designer series paper we put on the front of the card. Now, one thing I highly recommend that you do before you stamp on it is check and make sure you've got it oriented the right direction. Because if you don't, you'll have a gap at the top, at the bottom, but you won't have anything on the sides. Now, if you like it that way, that's fine. Up to you, but I want mine to have a border around all the edges. So I'm going to revisit Coastal Cabana here for a moment and stamp a sentiment on the inside. This is from the Best Year stamp set, which has a nice variety of sentiments. And then I'm just going to add some little accents with that floral stamp again to the corners. You don't have a ton of room to write a message, but you do have a little bit with this card. All right. So there's the inside of my card looking all cute. And all I need to do is glue that on the inside, and then this card will be ready to go. Just like that. So I've got my sweet little book fold card and my matching envelope. Now, you're going to get a bonus tonight. Typically, I do one card, but I'm going to show you how to make another version of this card. Same technique, just slightly different measurements. This card, as I mentioned at the beginning, is done in the landscape orientation, but you can also make it in the portrait orientation, using half a sheet of cardstock the other way. So this was the long skinny card base. We're going to take half a sheet this way and make the same style card. So for this one, you need a card base that is 5.5 by 8.5. And grab your scoreboard just one more time for 2 quick score lines. For this one, on that 8.5 inch side, we are going to score first at 3 inches and then down the center at 4 1/4. So again, 2 quick score lines, fold it in half and fold it back. And you can see it's same concept, just different measurements. So for this card, you will need a piece of designer series paper that is 2 3/4 inches wide. Let me make sure I'm on camera here. And 5 1/4 inches tall. Again, check your direction. For your spine, you will need a piece that is 1 inch wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And then we're just going to glue these to the front, just like we did on that first card. And again, I'm going to start with that larger panel. And then once that's done, I'm going to work on that spine piece. Again, I'm going to turn it sideways so I can line it up a little easier. And I forgot to mention the black and white paper, the majority of the black and white paper that you see tonight is from our Celebration offering that we currently have if you're watching in August of 2021. If you are interested in seeing a catalog and a Celebration brochure and you're not currently working with another demonstrator, reach out to me either here in the comments or on my Facebook page over at The Faithful Stamper, and I'd be happy to send you a catalog in the mail. So back to the card. Again with the ribbon, same hack that I used the first time. This is Just Jade ribbon to match my Just Jade cardstock. I better put it this way, otherwise I'm going to end up with it crooked. So center your ribbon, add a piece of tape or a little bit of glue to tack it down. And that's good, pretty straight there. Glue or tear and tape here in between those score lines to form your book seam. I'm just going to give that a good press. I love how easily this tape backing comes up using this tool. I wish I'd known it years ago. It would have saved my fingernails and lots of grief. And just press that down. You can add that glue dot if you want. I think I'm going to bypass that second glue dot for now and make my bow. See if I have better luck with this one. Some days I've got it, some days I don't. I think we'll roll with that. So I'm going to cut it off the spool, trim the edge, and then this gets a glue dot on the back. And voila, cute little bow. And I could leave the card just like this, but I'm going to go with that sentiment on the front again. So one more scalloped oval. Not quite enough real estate there. In the basic black. And this time I am going to use Just Jade. Breaking out that tuxedo black memento ink again. Yeah, I think I've got enough room. I love this little happy birthday. I just love that print, and it's a nice little size. And so I'm gonna punch this, and I'm gonna save the scalloped oval to use on another project. Couple of dimensionals again, and once again position this, and there's the front of my card. Now for the inside of the card, you're going to want a basic white panel, or you could use another color depending on what colors you've gone with, something light colored, and 2 3/4 inches by 5 1/4. Same size as this panel of Designer Series paper. And one more time I'm going to pull out my well-loved scrap paper here, because I'm going to repeat what I did in the first card, except instead of Coastal Cabana, I'm going to use Just Jade ink. And one thing to keep in mind if you are doing this orientation of the card is you have to have a sentiment that's kind of narrow. Obviously, if you have something too long, it's going to run right off the page. But I'm going to show you a little tip in a minute of how you can work around that if you've got a longer sentiment that you're in love with. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of an accent to my corners. Whoop. Almost stuck my fingers in ink. I am known to do that. Put that to the side, and while I'm here, gotta give that envelope a little love. And there we go. So now, before I stick my sleeve in my ink pad, close that up. There's my envelope. And all I need to do is a quick bit of adhesive on this piece. Give it a little border along the inside. And there is my second style card ready to go. So two very simple cards, simple technique. Different look just by changing the direction of the card. Now I have some samples to show you that you can do this for any occasion. So I'm gonna start with the samples I made that are this style of the card with the portrait orientation. So first of all, I made a Christmas card. This is using some of our celebration paper featuring these adorable penguins and his friends. So this one I kept simple. I did not add any ribbon. I just decorated the front of the card, added a little sentiment, and then stamped the inside. Now I mentioned a moment ago that you have to limit yourself to the width of your sentiment because this card is kind of narrow. There's not a lot of room to write. Here's an easy fix for that. Instead of making the card in this direction, flip it sideways and make it in the landscape orientation. So your measurements are the same, just cut your paper wide for your design instead of tall. Now for this one, I stamped directly on the designer series paper. Obviously that wouldn't work for every card, but it did for this one. And I was able to use a wider sentiment on the inside as well. And then I wanted to show you how you can very easily change the look of your card by changing perhaps the ribbon, or if you add a little bling to your card. So same card. Now I could very easily have left the sentiment off. This would be a perfectly sweet note card without it. And I know some people are fans of leaving the sentiment off until they know who the card recipient is going to be and what occasion they need it for. So it's totally up to you whether you put the sentiment on like I like to do or leave it for later. And then for these cards, instead of stamping on the envelope, I added matching designer series paper to my envelope flap because I don't like naked envelopes. Now, to that other style of card that we made first. And instead of opening to the side, like this card, you can also shift the orientation and open the card to the top. Again, just change the direction that you cut your paper and measurements stay the same. So this is actually some of our Peaceful Deer paper. Again, another celebration item. I was focusing on that this evening. And this one though isn't a Christmas card. This makes a very nice masculine birthday card. We have our Peaceful Deer stamp set with the matching punch. I just added a birthday sentiment to a stitched rectangle. And this is actually a scrap of a deer cut from the punch. I made this card first and I needed the antlers, and when I punched the antlers out I ended up with about half of a deer, and it landed on my work table, and I thought, well, wait a minute, I could use that. So I kind of like that little deer silhouette here. It just kind of keeps that theme going. So if you've got someone who likes wildlife or to hunt, this is a great idea for them. Now for this one, instead of ribbon, I added a few brads to the top just for a little accent, and you would put them in the same step as you would the ribbon. So before you seal the card, I just punched my holes and added my brads and then taped it shut. It does add a little bit of bulk to the card, so make sure you have that glued down really well. And then last but not least, I made another Christmas card with this to show you just how you can dress up the card or dress it down. So this is the same card, one with and one without the bow. And I just really like the way these came together. This red and black really pops. So I hope you enjoyed learning the book fold or book binding or side fold technique, whichever you would like to call it. I would love it if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel. I post videos here typically twice a week with new techniques. And then you can catch me live over on Facebook at The Faithful Stamper. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the technique. Take care and happy crafting.